So we still need. Okay, so we just need Jim and we can start. Everybody seems to be here other than Jim. So
all right, let's see. Oh, where's my phone? It's in my pocket. Hey, Davis, how are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Perfect.
oh, Harris, one thing we should also do too is we should, when the meeting starts, just have each member say their name to confirm quorum.
Okay, gotcha. All right, I just texted Jim.
Good. Okay.
Wendy, have not heard back from Jim.
No,
So what would you like to? How do we proceed? Do we?
we really can't start the meeting without a quorum, so.
Okay. We'll see if he responds in a moment. I don't know if he's having trouble getting on or anything, but. No, I'm sorry, I couldn't do last night. Did you have enough people for last night, or not for last night either?
Last night,
Yeah. I know I wasn't available last night, but
the last,
no, you said Tuesday or Wednesday. I wasn't available last night I'm usually available every Tuesday night, but
oh, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
let's see if he answers the phone.
You could mute it if you want.
No luck.
All right, so.
All right, Wendy, what should we try to do then? Do we need to apologize and reschedule?
Oh gosh, really do not want to do that. It's really going to delay a lot of things because as it is, I mean, this is like later in the process.
I understand that.
Yeah, because we still have to meet with the town administrator. He's going to get his memo out. We're really kind of up against the deadlines here, and we have everybody lined up.
So should we hear them, and can we send a recording to Jim and Colin, have them look at it, and have us get back together, or do a vote? I'm just trying to think.
Let me give me a few minutes. Let me check into that. Okay.
Hey, Rosanna, why today? Just wave, it's okay.
Greetings, all.
We have a quorum.
Story of my life. Oh my God, that's what I look
Thank
like.
you, Greg.
Hey, wait a minute, I see 3 people. There's a quorum. You tricked me.
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate it.
No problem. It's my Murphy's Law day from one Zoom to another, and I'll be pulling an all-nighter. All the things for our town.
Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to start recording.
All right, good evening,
Okay,
everyone.
so we can call the meeting to order. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's now 7:18 on March 31st. I'd like to do a quick roll call. Let's see. Greg, Colin McCarthy's not here. Chris Veal, not here. Greg Strange.
Strange.
He's, Davis Healy.
Davis Healy is here.
Let's see. Jim Condon is not here. Wendy Nightingale.
Wendy Nightingale is here.
Great. And Harris Blumold is here. We have a quorum and we may begin the meeting. All right. First on our agenda tonight is, where's my agenda? There it is. We got the inspectional services. So can we have Kevin join us?
So Kevin has been promoted to panelist. So Kevin, you just need to unmute.
Okay.
All right, that should do it.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Kevin. We apologize for the delay.
That's okay.
And the floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, so this should be pretty easy, straightforward, and painless. Just looking to get a new truck added to our fleet. We have been fortunate enough to get one coming from last fall town meeting, and we did receive one the year before that. I had anticipated only needing 2 originally. We did add an inspector position to our stable, so we needed a 4th vehicle. And so one of the vehicles I intended to replace is not getting replaced, so that's why we're back again this year. We have a 2005 F-150 that's a hand-me-down from the DPW that's getting replaced with a truck that should be here next month. And then we also have a 2008 Ford Ranger that's in dire need. The whole underside is rotted. Jim Luke, town mechanic, said that he's surprised it hasn't just broken. So I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to limp that along. The 4th vehicle we have is a 2011 Ford Ranger. That only has about 40,000 miles on it, and it's not as bad as the other ones. It is older, but the low miles make it so that I think we can get by with that probably for 5 or 6 more years. So I think if we can get this one last vehicle I'm asking for, we're probably good with capital in my department for at least 5 years.
Thank you, Kevin. Does anyone have any questions for Kevin? Kevin, it's a straightforward request. We will put it on our agenda, and we appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Next up.
Bet they couldn't all be that easy.
Next is planning and economical services, and Stephanie should be joining us.
Yes, I will promote her to panelist.
Can I help you with that?
Okay, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Stephanie. How are you tonight?
I'm well, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us. We apologize for the delay.
That's okay. So our request is to upgrade our online permitting system to the latest version. The permitting system is offered through Full Circle Technologies. It's called Permitize. I know Greg is very familiar with the system. I don't know how many of the rest of the board members know that we are fully automated with our online permitting applications and information related to projects in the Planning Department, Building, Board of Health, Select Board's office, as well as the Fire Department is using portions of Permitize. We first introduced it in 2008 with the Conservation Commission module, then added Building, Board of Health, and Select Board in, I think it was 2014. And in 2017, we added the Zoning Board of Appeals module in my department. It's a very effective system. It works well. And we get a lot of compliments from applicants who find it easier to use than other communities that don't have online and automated permitting. I get kudos from unusual places. A former planner in a neighboring town who now does consulting work for applicants was lauding how easy it is to use and so much better than other towns. So the upgrade, right now, the modules operate somewhat independently. We have the ability to solicit comments through the system from other departments, but an applicant can't see through a single entry point different permits for a single address and know where they might have documents or applications, say with the Conservation Commission or the Building Department. They have to go in through a separate login, a separate sign-in. Also, they can't share documents across the different modules. So if the planning board approves a subdivision or a site plan approval, it would be great if we could just link that when they submit their building application. And that capability doesn't exist, but it exists in the updated version that we're seeking funding for. And the funding is for upgrades for all the modules.
So Stephanie, does this save time and or staffing issues for your department?
It does save time in that the applications come in electronically. We're not processing as much paper as we were in the past. All the documents that are associated with an application are uploaded to this system, so they're all stored online. There's a public view. So if we have a public records request, about a particular project, a particular address, it's very easy to just refer them to the online system first. And if they can't get the information there, then they come to us. But that satisfies probably 80% of the requests that come through. That's a significant cost savings. And one of the things we've done is eliminated a lot of the paper packets that we would send out to the boards because the information is all available online.
Great.
Yeah, tell that to my printer at home.
Does anyone else have any questions for Stephanie?
I just wanted to add that the online permitting software has been, extremely helpful during the pandemic and allowing us to carry on with business. So it's been very valuable that way. And it also allows people to, make their payments for their permits online as well.
Those are really good points. And that's another, Easton was able to continue the permitting process pretty much without interruption, as I understand it. I was not here for a brief period of time, that happening to be the period. But other communities, I'm the chair of a board in Brockton, a permitting board, and it wasn't until June that we went back to meetings. And they really had to scramble and use Google Docs for their permitting and online access. And it just doesn't work the same because it's not a permitting system.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't chime in, since I'm somewhat involved in this stuff. And, think of it, we in town, permits, we seem to be, more and more regulatory, but, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but good for local historic districts, or obviously wetlands, scenic roads. We have all these bylaws, and it's really not possible for humans to keep track of everything. We have such a burdensome paperwork, litigious society. So that I'm usually not a big fan of technological unemployment, but this is a well-needed expenditure. Because otherwise things just miss. We've had it happen. We've had historic structures come down because they got too far in the process, and it wasn't picked up. Just for an example. So there is some real world benefits to it for the residents.
Thanks, Greg. Any other comments? Questions? Well, thank you, Stephanie, for your time. We really appreciate it, and we will put this on our agenda.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
I knew I was going to use technological unemployment before the end of the day. It was a word challenge I had from a friend. So.
All right. Well, you can check it off then. Perfect. So next up, we have our school department, and I believe David will be here, and John, I believe. Oh.
All right, this is pretty good. I was getting
David.
nervous. I was in like the green room, like getting ready for this.
Are you ready for your debut?
Yeah, ready to roll. All right. So nice to see you guys again. Hope everybody's doing well. So yeah, I'll just kind of run through. We have a PowerPoint, so it's like Wendy has it up on the computer. So what's that again, Wendy?
Oh, hang on. Let me get that. You can keep talking.
Okay. Yeah. So the first page is really a summary page of all our requests. The first one is something that we've been doing the last 2 or 3 years, and that's replacing carpets over at the Richardson Homestead School. So we're looking to replace 11 carpets in classrooms. Once we do these 11, we'll have finished all the classrooms over at Richardson Homestead. The next thing is something that we had started last year, and that's we'd like to continue replacing compressors and rooftop units at Richardson Homestead. As you know, Richardson Homestead is about 22 years old or so. So some of the mechanical systems, especially on the roof, are starting to get a little bit old. So instead of coming in and asking to do all the rooftop units all in 1 year, which would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, we're trying to spread it out. The last summer we installed, I think it was like 3 rooftop units. So we're looking to pretty much do the same thing this year. One of the things, and Wendy might know a little bit more about this than I do, but I know that Alicia's been in conversations with Connor about trying to use our American Rescue Plan money. So there is a possibility that the rooftop units would be paid under ARP because, with the pandemic, a lot of the HVAC systems, ventilation, that I think that's covered under ARP. So I don't know where that is, but we figured we would put it on the capital request, and Connor and this committee can kind of hash out where it gets paid or how you guys do that.
Right. Yeah, we are looking into that, and so if at all possible that we can fund this through CARES money or the ARPA money, we will certainly do that.
And then the next thing that we have on that front page there, we talk about VCT tiles, and there's some pictures on the PowerPoint that we'll get to in a minute or two. But basically, there's the Richardson side and there's the Homestead side on the first floor, and there's a lot of moisture on those floors because there's no basement there. So some of the tiles are starting to really pop up on the first floor. So we'd like to do the Richardson wing this summer, and then we would do the Homestead wing next summer. But so we got a price on that of $20,000. And the next thing is to install a new compressor over in the old gym. Again, this is a ventilation issue, and this could possibly be paid through ARP. The next one down is a little bit more complicated, and I think I had sent out a packet out to Wendy, and we updated it this afternoon because this is hot off the press. It's kind of a long involved situation, but basically we're looking to repair the fitness center. There's some water damage in the fitness center from the roof and from the siding that's up on the roof. And we've been working with Building Enclosure Associates. We hired them to do an investigation as to why we continue to have water coming into the fitness center. We also had last year, right around the beginning of the pandemic, we had a lot of damage in the fitness center. So we filed a claim with Meyer or Cabot, who's our insurer. And so they're going to pay for the repairs inside the fitness center. However, because the roof and the siding is more of a construction issue, they said they wouldn't necessarily cover that. So again, we hired, we actually had one roofing company come out there last spring and try to repair it. And for like 3 or 4 weeks, we didn't get any water coming in because we didn't want to button it up. But then all of a sudden, like 3 or 4 weeks later, we started getting water again. We're like, geez, we're really frustrated with the whole thing. So we talked to PMA Consultants, which are working on the Blanche James Elementary School, and they recommended that we call Building Enclosure Associates. They came out, they did an assessment, and they basically identified, and there's a report that I shared with the Municipal Building Committee last night, and they basically identified 5 areas where we have leakage. Some of it's from the roof, some of it's from siding, some of it's caulking, there's various things. And they basically said it would cost about $200. This is just an estimate. We haven't gone out to bid for this. We could also, we submitted a claim against the warranty. There's a warranty on the roof. So we submitted a claim to Sonifel, which is the roofing product up on that roof. So they actually called me back today. I talked to Sonifel, and they're going to actually send one of their reps out to take a look at the roof, and they're going to make an assessment as far as whether some of it would be covered under the warranty. So the cost I have here is probably worst case scenario, but right now, based on an estimate without going out to bid or anything, the roof repairs would cost about $270,000. And then to do the design and bidding and the hire Building Enclosure Associates to continue on, it would be about another $25,000. One thing about Building Enclosure Associates, they're on the state bid, and they're also a minority business enterprise. So they're on the state bid for that, for design work. The next one down on our list there is we want to make some improvements to our security. We really noticed with the pandemic, and in fact, the principals had asked for this the last couple of years. We kind of held them off. But this year, I think with the pandemic, we really noticed that we need to do something about the main entrances into the Richardson Homestead School and Easton Middle School. Currently, folks, when they come into the building, they can just, once they get buzzed in, they can pretty much go straight through the building without getting stopped. So what we want to do is kind of set up a banker's window and kind of electrify the doors where we can buzz people in and out, put some cameras out there. We also have a badge system. It's called Raptor. So basically we would have when they first walk into the atrium or into the first set of doors, there'd be a window on like the left-hand side. They could get checked out there. We could do a Raptor, give them a badge, and then we could buzz them into the rest of the building. And then the other thing is that when people come in periodically, a student may have left their books at home, or they maybe left their lunch at home. Instead of having to walk through the entire building, they can just go up to the window, drop the material off with the secretary, and then they can call the student down, they can pick it up. So we work with the DPW on this, and the DPW estimates that it would be about $25,000 to put the security doors in. We'd also, there'd be some intercom system cameras, power strikes on the doors, basically a buzzer system, and they'd have to do some painting. And there's one, there's a heating element that's on one side that we'd have to move. So there's a little bit of HVAC work that has to go on. But the estimate there is about $25,000 at each location. The next one is the computers and projectors. And again, this would, as I mentioned earlier, Leisha is working with Connor and Wendy on potentially using our American Rescue Plan dollars for that. John, in a little while, I'll have John talk a little bit further about that. And then the last thing is the industrial arts furniture. It's not only industrial arts, but as you may know, the high school now is about 13 to 14 years old. So some of the furniture is really starting to break down. So we have a lot of furniture that's breaking. We need to replace that furniture. But mostly the money would be used for the industrial arts. And also we have family and consumer science, which is like a cooking type class. So we really need to replace the furniture. So basically that would be about $25,000. So with that, I'll kind of run you through the PowerPoint. There's some photographs. I'll just give you a couple of comments. I think I pretty much told you a lot just on this first pass. So the first slide there is just about the Richardson Homestead School. That's a picture of the rug in one of the classrooms. And again, we're looking to replace 11 carpets. And once we do these 11 carpets, the entire building will have been finished as far as carpets go. Next slide, Wendy. And then the next one is, this is the Richardson Homestead side. This is the floor tiles that are popping up over on the right-hand side of the building. That's the entrance to one of the classrooms. So as you can see, there's significant damage on that one side. So we'd really like to start working on that floor. Next slide. And then this is a picture of the rooftop units over at Richardson Homestead School. Again, we would also be doing one over at the Oliver Ames High School. We got a quote from Buckley Associates for that compressor. And so last summer we did 3 of them. Hopefully this summer we're looking to do about 3 or 4 more rooftop units and compressors. Next. And this is a picture of the security. So those are the entrance doors to the Richardson Homestead School. As you can tell, that's what we're basically showing is the first set of doors, and then you would get to the second set of doors. But again, once you get buzzed in through those first set of doors, if you don't go left to check in with the secretary as you enter the building, you could run right down that hallway and get into the building. So again, we think it's a security issue. The principals have been requesting this for a little while, and I think it's money that's well spent. Next slide. And I'll turn it over to John, and he can tell you about technology.
Hi, everybody. Are you able to hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
So this is kind of our urgent care unit here in this picture. So what we're asking for this year is a regular cycle out of projectors and computers. So we have the Brightlinks, we have the Epson projectors that are the standard throw at the high school and middle school. What's different this year though is, first, I'm not buying computers or projectors for the outgoing K-2 buildings. We're just gonna ride those out until a new building comes in. And then the other big piece that makes this budget different from last year is we've gone from about 950 Chromebooks to over 3,700. So this represents the start of cycling those out. So a lot of our Chromebooks are new, but we threw everything that we had into this. And so we had to augment with a lot of old Chromebooks. So this first year would be that first step of replacing those. And at the end of 5-6 years, we should have all the Chromebooks cycled out and we'd start again. But we're 1-to-1 now, and we were able to get a good boost with all the government funding, and we want to keep that going.
Okay, next slide, I guess. And that's just a summary. That's the first page. I just kind of gave a summary again. So I don't know if there's any questions from the committee. John and I would be willing to answer whatever the questions are.
Actually, I have a question about the furniture. So what kind of furniture specifically would you be looking at, particularly for like industrial lots?
Mostly we're looking at the industrial lots. So like the design, the furniture we have in here is really, really old. And I think, in 2021, I mean, the way they do CAD and that type of stuff, they really need specific furniture for that type of, for industrial lots. So really, most of the money would probably be spent in industrial lots, but we would also look to do some possible replacement of some furniture that's broken throughout the building.
Okay.
Great. David, are the compressors you're replacing this year? I know we had some issues with the ones last year that were in dire needs. Yep. Are these in the same state, or are we just trying to stay ahead of the game now with the compressors?
We're basically trying to be proactive, so trying to stay ahead of the game. The one at the high school is giving us some problems, so that's the most critical one. That's Buckley Associates that we work with on that. But the Richardson Homestead School, that's mostly being proactive, especially now with the pandemic and ventilation and stuff. The other thing is we're running this machinery, the mechanical systems, they're running much more frequently. Previously they would kind of cycle on and off, and you didn't have to run them quite as much, but we're running them probably like 18 hours a day or whatever it is. And so they're taking a beating this year. The DPW's done a great job maintaining a lot of our equipment. But this is really, again, the Richardson Homestead, that's more like being proactive before they break. But the high school one, we're actually having problems with that in the old gym. So that's something that would definitely have to get replaced.
And one last question on the roofing issue. Is that replacing just a portion of the roof?
No, that's actually, there's like multiple holes, and there's some areas, it's like right where the transition, you'd have to actually see the area, but it's the transition where the siding of the wall is up on the roof, and where the flat roof begins, and there's like metal that's kind of like in between there, and that's where the leaks are. So it's again, I think when we talk to Sonnefeld, I think some of the leaks are coming from the roof, but some of it might be coming from the barrier behind the siding. So again, I think the 270,000 for the work, that's probably worst case scenario. If we can get Sonnefeld to at least pay for some of the repairs on the roof, then that's going to bring that number down a lot. But I'm not going to know that for a few weeks because they're going to have to send somebody out and take a look at it and make a determination whether it's a warranty issue, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
Do you have any, are there going to be any structural issues like underneath the roof? That may need
Well,
to
one
be
of the things
repaired?
one of the things that Building Enclosure Associates recommended is that we do a moisture test, kind of like you can do a camera, you do a camera test that can tell if the insulation is wet or not. So we'll probably end up doing one of those. I think if I remember correctly, I could be wrong on this, but I believe that the DPW actually purchased a machine to do that. I think they might have got it from Meyer, but I'm not, don't run with that, but I'm pretty sure that we purchased the machine, so we could probably do that in-house. Is that it?
Any other questions? Hearing none, David, we thank you for your time, and we'll be considering all your.
Thanks a lot, guys. Wendy, I'm very impressed. I was nervous sitting in the green room. This thing went fantastic. Good job. I like it.
Well, I'm just thankful we have our quorum, so.
Yeah, I was worried there, so that's great.
Thank you for your patience, David. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. See you later. Have a good night.
All right,
You do
thank you.
And bringing up next would be our DPW with Dave Field. And Rich, if he's here, Rich Journey.
Good evening.
Good evening, David. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
No problem. Do you mind if I share my screen? I have a little presentation.
Not a problem.
All right.
Right at the top, David. Top
Yep.
left-hand corner of this. Okay.
Yeah, just slowly react.
Okay.
So, all right. Good evening. I'm Dave Field. I'm Rich Turney, the Water Operations Manager, is here as well, and he's going to go through his items. But I'll start going through a summary of the DPW items. Can everyone see everything that's on the screen right now?
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just looking, at least on my screen, things are kind of, your appearances are flashing around. Are you guys noticing that? Or is it
No,
just
I'm
me?
fine. Yeah, I think it's you, Wendy. If you wanted to, you can minimize all our pictures by going to that single line. So all you see is the presentation.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we're good. So I'll just jump in. If you have any questions at any time, just stop me. I know it's a little different being on Zoom, but we'll try to do our best here. So overall, we have $2.5 million worth of requests on the DPW side, and that's going to seem pretty small compared to what you see the request for water. So I'll just foreshadow that. Starting with our motor equipment, this is basically our most important tool to do our jobs. No matter what it is, we need our vehicles to help out with getting things done. We have 65 over-the-road vehicles worth $7.9 million. Our fleet goes 219,000 miles per year. It's about 8,000 miles per employee. Our goal is to have a targeted retirement age for all of our vehicles, reduce our life cycle cost, and then utilize multifunction vehicles when possible. So on the life cycle cost, as vehicles age, the capital cost goes down, but as they age, the operation and maintenance costs go up. So when you add those two costs together, you have a total cost curve. And our goal is to retire vehicles at the bottom of that curve where it's most cost effective. How we do that right now, this is our initial screening for replacement age based on the class of vehicle, 7, 9, 12, and 15 years, depending on the heavy dutiness of a vehicle. And then this is a snapshot of overall fleet composition. The operations division is basically highway, buildings and grounds, and administration, when water is water alone. Water has a much different replacement age, average replacement age, because they're an enterprise account and they have a lot more flexibility on replacements, where the operations budget is usually constrained a lot more than the enterprise account. So you can see that the average replacement age for operations is 21 years, where it should be 12. And water is at 12, where it should be almost 11. And that's only because we have a spare backhoe that we're holding on to until it needs some repairs, because it's useful for snow and ice operations. Otherwise, they're at the replacement age. So if we don't fund $670,000 a year overall in the fleet, our fleet's going to get older. And basically that's been happening year after year. And just why is that important? If you look at this little comparison here, we have operations versus water with the different age of vehicles on average. And we look at the repair costs for those vehicles. We're looking at $2,400 to $1,000 for a DPW vehicle to a water vehicle, with the same mechanics working on them at the same part suppliers and everything else. Just the older the vehicle is, the more expensive it is to maintain. And so we could be saving $70,000 to $90,000 by having a younger fleet on the DPW operations side. Not only would we have a younger fleet and less money, we'd be able to do more preventative maintenance. Right now we have 2 mechanics, and I think the metrics show we should have about 4. So again, there's lots of reasons why fleets are important, in keeping them young is important. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to do that so far. So getting into the meat of our presentation, we're looking to replace vehicle number 8. It's a 2006 F450, 14 years old. It's past its useful life. It's got 100,000 miles. We're looking to replace that with a new 550 class hook lift, which is a multifunction vehicle. It has multiple bodies that can be put on and dropped pretty quickly. Looking at replacing number 63, it's one of our sidewalk tractors. This is 16 years old. It's well past its recommended age. This vehicle really should only get to be about 10 years in age, because the amount of repairs get to be pretty substantial on these vehicles. And it's a small vehicle. It goes on a sidewalk, but they are fairly specialized, and the replacement's about $185,000. We're asking for a new item. We asked for this the last few years, a second front end loader. We currently rent a loader each year to the tune of $25,000 to $30,000 a year for the winter season, and we believe we could own it and have it more cost effective by owning that. We're replacing number 19. This has been on here, I think, every year I've made this presentation. It hasn't been funded yet. This is the mechanics rescue vehicle service truck. We're looking to replace this with a hook lift. And what we do here is instead of having a truck that sits inside waiting to go and service other vehicles on the road, we would have a body that could be picked up as needed and brought out to service those trucks, instead of a whole cabin chassis. And that cabin chassis could be doing other things when it's not needed for vehicle service. Number 62 is our Bobcat, 18 years old, recommended replacement, and we'll add a milling attachment for asphalt repairs, something we frequently rent and go outside to get. So we're requesting $85,000 for that. And then we're into the water trucks. So this is on water's presentation as well, but I'll just talk about it while we're talking about vehicles. This is truck 124. It's at its replacement age. It's 9 years old, and we'll put this into the fleet. We'll bump something much older on the DPW side. Most likely this will become a buildings and grounds truck that would be used with our seasonal crew, towing mowers and things like that. Again, just an actual recommended replacement age at the right time. And we're looking for a new 134 vehicle. The reason we're adding an employee in water, we're adding a water treatment plant operator. We'll be adding some water treatment plants over the next year. And we don't really have any spare vehicles in water, so we'd want to make sure that employee had a vehicle to use. Are there any questions on the fleet, or are there any of the vehicles we're looking to replace or purchase?
No, Dave, we're familiar with your vehicles. We apologize for that. Do you have a priority listing of what vehicles you would like to have done first versus last type of thing, if we can?
Well, on the DPW side, probably the order they're in that I presented them. I think that's in the write-up.
Okay,
so
thank you.
That would be our priority. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave?
All right, I'll move on to pavement management funding. Again, we usually present on this each year. Right now, it looks like from our calculations, we need $1.5 million a year in asphalt repairs to stay at the level of service that we're at now. We get Chapter 90 from the state, about $730,000, but we have to use some of that for design of tip projects because we don't have really alternate sources for that funding. So we usually only have about $500,000 available from Chapter 90, and then we would need another $1 million. We're only requesting $500,000. We haven't been successful in getting that every year. We're funded for a few years in a row, which is great, but I don't believe we've had funding for a couple of years on this, and it's beginning to impact our road network. So that's our standing Chapter 9 pavement management request. We're looking for $25,000 to fund an overhead flashing beacon at the intersection of Turnpike and Purchase Street. There's a high crash location. One of the short-term recommendations of a road safety audit included an overhead beacon to replace the pole-mounted beacons, and we're asking for $25,000 to do a design and construct that measure. Looking for $200,000 for facility feasibility study for police, fire, and DPW. This has been on for a couple of years as well. We have potential sites, including the Gill property and Center School, and we're working with Doran Whittier and Weston Sampson currently. There is a chance that there may be a developer's agreement that would help fund this, but shy of that, we'd still look for these funds. We need to replace a forklift. This is not in the our over the road vehicles, but it is an item that we need to replace. It's a 1970. It's unsafe at the time, and it's missing many of the modern lockout safety features. It's used daily around the DPW to unload equipment and materials, shuttle plows, and other equipment around the yard. So we're asking for $30,000 for a forklift. Facility parking lot resurfacing, looking for $200,000 to resurface Police and Fire Station 1, Fire Station 3, Frothingham Hall, the Water Division, in the front of the DPW. We can't use Chapter 90 funds for these purposes because they're not on a public right-of-way, and we have no other real sources of funding to do that. These are important things to keep up with, and public safety issues of anyone who goes in these lots. They're deteriorated and trip hazards, things like that. Our insurance company is always on us to keep these things in good repair. Looking for $350,000 to initiate a design project for signalization and geometric improvements at Turnpike and Purchase. This is the same thing we talked about earlier, but this is the long-term solution. This would be needed. The design would be needed to start the process of TIP funding, where we look for the state and federal funds to pay for the actual construction, but we have to start with the design as it's a local road. We have to pay for that ourselves. And facilities capital improvements, we're requesting $200,000. Doran Whittier did a study 2014, found $21 million worth of needed renovations and repairs just in town buildings. This item's been funded about $700,000 in the past, but not recently. And this is useful for various facilities upgrades and repairs. Right now, we're using the balance of the money that was appropriated that we have left to add a bathroom at the fire station, a women's bathroom that didn't exist. And so, these are the things that we come up with, these type of projects that we just use this money for. So we're a little bit nimble and we can respond and handle facility issues as they come up. Requesting $50,000 to update our existing planimetric features on our GIS system. The USGS is flying the town and the region this spring. This would be an opportunity for us to update our GIS features. That's very important for our overall GIS system, and it's a good representation of the physical assets out there, whether it's buildings, curb lines, water lines, hydrants, things like that. Looking for $100,000 for our ADA transition plan. We were able to fund $25,000 last year, which is great, but we do have about $5 million worth of identified needs for compliance with ADA. And this would just go to that effort to go to our high priority items, both roadway issues and buildings. And this is a new item that was just revised this week. We have a membranes at the Northeastern Village wastewater treatment plant need replacing. These do require periodic replacement. They're usually about every 10 years. One of them is being replaced this year through a reserve fund transfer. And we're asking for funds to replace ZW1, which will happen next year. These are the core filtration mechanisms for the wastewater treatment plant and are very important to the life of the plant. I believe that's it for DPW. Are there any questions on DPW before I move on and turn it over to Rich?
Dave, just a quick question. Is any of those repair or safety issues available to be covered by any of the safety issue under the COVID funds that we're getting for the town?
With the facilities or ADA or?
With facilities, I would say.
Yeah, so anything that is eligible, and that's generally been our HVAC, almost everything we've done that we could put on to COVID, we have. But again, like the fire station bathroom, that's more of an accommodation issue and a quality issue. So that's not a COVID issue. Mm-hmm. So that's what those funds are being used for, is more the repairs that just need to be done and that we can't be charged to another source.
Thank you. Any other questions for Dave before we move on to water? Hearing none. Thank you, Dave. We appreciate it.
All right, I'll turn it over to Rich. I'll work the slides, Rich. So just tell me when you need me to move them, but otherwise I'll turn it over to you. Do we have Rich? All right.
Rich, let's see, I'll ask him to unmute.
There we
go. Thank you all. So the first couple of items that I'm going to present to you are what Dave already segued for me. The two vehicles, the first being a 2012 Ford F-250 utility truck. 9 years of age. It's part of our service fleet. As you saw on there, there was a crane on there. That's what moves a lot of our hydrants and heavy equipment around. So late at night, this truck sees a lot of work for a multitude of different kind of activities, especially emergency type situations. Next slide, Dave. So this is for a new future employee, which we're building or hopeful that we get a new treatment facility built, and this vehicle will be for that staff member when he's brought on board. So looking to add one to our fleet right now, and look for your support in that effort. Next slide. All right, so this is a request for a green sand filtration plant. The price tag of this is $15.4 million. The funding is to complete the design and construction of what we're naming it the Red Mill Road treatment plant. It's designed and capable of doing 1.69 million gallons a day. There are 3 existing wells out on Red Mill Road, wells number 3, 5, and 7. Will be modified, but they will supply the raw water to the new treatment plant. This plant is 69,000 square feet in dimension. There will be 4 green sand pressure vessels inside of this facility. The green sand actually removes iron and manganese, which is normally in some wells you have different levels of iron and manganese, and at these particular wells they are elevated. So I don't know if you folks experienced any dirty water last summer, but these are the prime culprits of some of this poor water quality. And we came to you back last year and asked for $1 million to get the design of this plant and permitting initiated. And now we're looking for the final piece, which is the actual construction dollars to build this facility at $15.4 million. Next slide, Dave. All right. This particular article has been most recent in the news, and I'm sure many of you have probably heard some of the prior discussions. It's referred to as the forever chemicals. It's per and polyfluoral alkali substances, otherwise known as PFAS. The price of these 3 separate facilities is $9.2 million. Last year, we requested $110,000 to do a study in which we had a consulting engineer determine or go into the study and assessment of the best type of treatment to remove these PFAS chemicals. And now, within the last year, the Department of Environmental Protection has changed the maximum contaminant level. We were at 70 parts per trillion. I stand corrected, 70 parts per billion. And the Department of Environmental Protection has now moved that to a lower level of 20 parts per trillion. So significantly lower. We have right now 2 of our wells that are above 20 parts per trillion, and another one that's in that range of between 10 and 20. So the 3 wells that we're looking to do this treatment at are at stations 1, which is on Gary Lane, and the other 2 are 2 and 4 on Washington Street. The 2 on Washington Street will share a lagoon, but each well will have its own GAC or pressure vessels, much like the green sands, except they will be using some kind of granular activated carbon. The one over in Gary Lane will be separate just because of its location, and it's, you know, remote from the other two wells. So over this past year, our consultant has been working to design these facilities, bring certain ideas or knowledge to us. And right now they're doing the final pilot testing to determine the best granular activated carbon, which is kind of the standard across the United States for removing these types of contaminants. So once again, we also applied this past summer to the DEP for a grant for $200,000, and the town of Easton got a $200,000 grant from the Department of Environmental Protection for the permitting and design of these facilities. And that's some of those fundings will be used to pay for some of the design that is needed for these facilities. Next slide, Dave. So
Sorry, Rich, I have a question.
sure.
So a while ago, I know the Water Division was offering, was it filters that people could get and get a rebate?
Yes.
Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So going back, so there was a change in regulations. That regulation prior to this was a standard that the environmental protection, the federal government actually had the standard of 70 parts per billion, which was, you know, across the United States. Within this past year, October of this year, our state, the DEP, lowered that standard, which they can because all the states have primacy, which means they can lower levels than whatever the federal government has. And so we, as a public water supplier, are required to meet. And so now that earlier premise of devices that we were endorsing, in which they were also endorsing, but once they moved the bar to 20 parts per trillion, they could no longer support the standard of the devices that were out there because they were tested for 70 parts per billion, not 20 parts per trillion.
Okay.
So that's why we've kind of moved away from that statement or support, because we're not getting that support either from the federal government or the state government. So
Okay.
we're kind of in the crosshairs with this, and we need to kind of move rapidly with our process if we can. I know that we told our regulators or the DEP that, you know, we'll go through the process of going through funding and requesting, but ultimately it's the consumers and ratepayers who make the final decision on how quickly this thing moves and whether or not we get supported. But you know, you talk about contaminants, I think most of us don't want any contaminants. And I'm kind of remiss that we weren't able to use those point of entry and point of use type of devices, because that was approved before we got started, and now they've kind of retreated from it. So we're kind of left with no support on that one.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just be clear on this. The federal standards were 70 parts per billion.
Correct.
And the state has changed it to 20 parts per trillion.
Correct. So within the last couple of years, the science and the lab capabilities was able to go down to a much lower level. And that's what's kind of moving this thing rapidly, because a lot of water supplies across the United States still haven't even tested yet. So they're just, water systems of the size of our community are just going to start testing this coming month. So we have already gone through our testing for over a year. You're going to hear a lot more here in this coming year of other water suppliers. So most of us did this testing, which was under UCMR 3, and that was back in 2013. And that the standard back then was parts per billion, and we got that false sense of we were all clear because there wasn't any detections back then. But now that the labs are able to go down to a much lower level with some certainty and accuracy, that's where we're at right now.
Wow. Well, I would imagine that this is going to become a widespread problem in many communities, not just here.
Absolutely. And yes, you're definitely going to hear a lot more of it. It's only just begun.
Yeah, and I think Rich did a really good job explaining that. But just to emphasize, so this is all changing. The filters were something that DEP recommended at the time when we met with them. They actually came to a select board meeting, sat in the Corona room with us and said, yes, filters are a good way to handle this, point of use filters. And that was right from their website. We had adopted our own rebate program. Now that's not a good thing. So we have to take that messaging off. We're going to have some notifications going out to all water users in the very short term. The 20 parts per trillion is a lifetime 70-year horizon they're looking at. So it's safe to drink water at or below 20 parts per trillion for your life. The concern is for sensitive subgroups. If you're over 20 parts per trillion, and we have a couple wells, we're between 20 and 35, somewhere in there. So that's going to be something you're going to see. It's going to be very costly for the town. We're going to do what we have to do. We're on our way now to install treatment. It's going to require water rates to be raised pretty drastically over the next few years. But we're in it, and we're going to comply with the regulations and move as quick as we can.
Thank you.
All right, the last article I have before you is for water main replacements. We're looking for $1.5 million per year over the next 5 years for water main design and construction. Our system is comprised of about 170 miles of water mains of various sizes of 1.5 inch to 16 inch. 20% of our system is unlined cast iron pipe installed prior to 1950. We have water mains that are, their normal useful life is between 50 and 75 years. It's our goal to begin to do some routine replacement program to ensure that these water mains are getting replaced on a regular basis. And we'll try to avoid having pipes exceed their useful life, and try to keep things on a safe and reliable level. We respond to about 15 to 25 water main breaks a year. These are unscheduled events. They're public safety issues. They increase the risk of injuries to our employees. These breaks also escalate our overtime budget. They contribute to unaccounted for water, disrupt service, and contribute to poor water quality. So we've kind of come up with a list of chronic areas where we've had continuous breaks. And we're also looking to incorporate some of these water main replacements in conjunction with infrastructure projects and roadway projects so that we're keeping in task with the DPW with certain roadway areas and projects. So we're looking for your support and encourage you to support us on this effort as well.
I think that's it. Are there any questions from any of the committee?
So David, how, go ahead, Wendy, I'm
So
sorry.
go ahead, Harris.
Yeah, so how are we looking to try to fund this filtration and
So,
other-
yep, that's a great question. So we've done a water rate study that we did, we completed last year that included some planned water rate increases each year for the next 3 years. That did not have PFAS in it, but it did have our iron and manganese treatment plant on Red Mill Road. That cost has since escalated, I think, over what we originally anticipated. And now with PFAS, we're going to go back and redo those water main that water rate study to make sure we program the water rate increases to cover all the costs that we have. The fortunate thing is Easton has had very cheap water for a long time. When we're done with these water rate increases, we'll probably be mid to upper 2/3 of all our surrounding communities and peers on water rates. But that's really what it takes to have a system that's reliable and safe and meets all the regulations. So it's unfortunate that we have to spend this money, and it's pretty drastic in compared to what we've been spending. But again, I think we have the capability to absorb these rate increases and still be in the ballpark with other cities and towns that provide water.
Do
David,
you
Wendy?
have any metrics on like what it typically costs to replace like I don't know, either like a mile or so many feet of water main? Roughly?
Yes, yeah. So it depends on what we're looking at, but generally it's between $200 to $400 a linear foot. And so that's kind of what we've come up with to start a program. And again, we're not quite there on the 1.5 million. It's not exactly what we probably will need. And that 1.5 would have to increase with inflation anyway over the years, but it's a starting point.
Yes.
It'll get us to a point where we can start making some routine replacements and get that older pipe out of the ground. And maybe not even the older pipe. We probably have some problematic pipes, which we are tracking all our breaks. We've been doing that since I think 2015, the location of all our breaks. So we know where we have clusters, and it's not always a straight age issue. It's a year of installation issue. Sometimes pipe manufacturing was thinner at certain times. This is especially true during World War II. Pipes get thinner. We're seeing breaks on pipes that were probably put in the 60s that you think should have been good, but they're not. So we'll go and get those problematic areas done first and prioritize those.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dave or Rich? Hearing or seeing none. Gentlemen, it's been quite enlightening. I appreciate your time and your input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
You too now. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the annual town report.
Yes.
Let's see.
So, I had sent out, it was a little bit later today, but I sent out just a draft for the annual town report of the items that were funded it's the annual town reports for 2020. So whatever we funded in 2020 was for fiscal 21. So that was included in the report.
Yep,
The report for the most part is pretty much, the same boilerplate as far as the text goes. And then we just put in, what got funded for the year.
Yeah, I looked it over, Wendy. It looked clear for what we did. So you do need to take a vote to approve that? Or is it
Yeah,
just
we'll
gonna
leave
go?
it.
All right,
Masterfully
then
done, Wendy.
going through my call list. Nightingale.
Oh, do we have a motion in a second?
Oh, sorry.
Motion to approve.
Second, please. Thank you, Davis. Now to take our vote. Nightingale.
Nightingale, yes.
Strange.
Strange, yes.
Healy.
Healy, yes.
And Bloomwald, yes. That's unanimous. Thank you. And the next item is minutes from our previous meetings. So I believe we have 2 meetings that we got notes to Wendy and Roseanne sent out to us today. Going first to, let's see, I see meeting notes for October 26, 2020.
Motion to approve.
Has everyone received them?
Second?
Okay. Let's see if we're going to do a quick roll call then.
Nightingale, yes.
Strange,
Strange.
yes.
Healy,
Healy.
yes.
And Bloomwald, yes.
Thank
And the next notes I see were 10:30, I believe. Is that correct? Let's see, October 30th, 2020. If everyone had a chance to review.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call. Nightingale,
Nightingale, yes.
Strange,
Strange, yes.
Healy,
Healy, yes.
and Bloomwald, yes. All right, do we have one more? Yeah, and that was for
3-3.
3-3. Yes, thank you. I just had to look for the date. And if everyone reviewed it, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes of 3/3/21.
Second?
And I'll do a roll call. Nightingale,
Nightingale, yes.
Strange,
Strange, yes.
Healy,
Healy, yes.
and Bloomwald, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It's had to do a roll call and look at the notes at the same time. I appreciate your patience. And let's see what else we got. We got any notes or updates we need to go over, Wendy, for the meeting?
No, I think, we can just set the next meeting date. The next meeting should be with the town administrator.
Yep.
I'll compile all of the requests and, create the spreadsheet like I normally do.
Mhm.
And then we can prioritize those at the next meeting, meet with the town administrator. And from there, he can put forth his capital budget memo and propose funding for town meeting.
That's great. Are we looking to do that in the next week, 2 weeks, do you think? 3 weeks?
So, let's see. So next week are all like budget hearings and everything. So I was hoping possibly the week after that. Now, Dave, this is a finance committee meeting on the 14th.
I haven't heard for sure from Patrick, but given that we still have some articles to go over as well, it's definitely possible that we'll be meeting on that day.
All right. Could anybody do a Tuesday on the 13th?
Do you think that's possible?
Works for me.
Okay. All right. So let's aim for that. I will. I'll see. If Connor is available. I'm pretty sure we talked about possibly meeting on that date. So
I believe
I'll just
we did,
confirm
yes.
that.
Yep, that'd be great. Does anyone else have any other business to bring in front of the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, one more time for roll call. Nightingale,
Nightingale, yes.
Strange,
Strange, see ya.
Healy,
Yes.
Healy, yes.
Wonder if that'll make it in the minutes.
and Bloomwald, yes.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Wendy,
you
for
all. Thank
everything.
you so much, Greg.
No problem.
You know, I know you had some conflicts and I really appreciate it.
Well, I'll probably lose my house because I said it on this meeting, but you know, I did it. I did it for the Abeses.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Crack myself
Good
up.
night.
Good
Night,
night.
everyone.